Hello, everybody. Here again with Erik Thompson. Erik, do you just want to remind everybody who you are?
Sure. I'm a clinical psychologist. I would say now I'm a leadership psychologist. I spent the last 25 years working with senior executives and their teams, helping them think more clearly about leadership and define how they want to behave as leaders. And I also have a strong interest in family. Guillermo, I just always had this natural passion for family. I just think it's somehow got into me. I don't know which gene or how that happens, but I remember talking to my father while we were shoveling snow in Connecticut when I was like 9 and asking him to like tell me about his family tree. Like, well, what
Oh,
about that cousin, grandma? So grandma, who were her parents? And so I am the executive director of the Vermont Center for Family Studies, and our mission is to strengthen families by training expert family therapists, coaches, advisors. And then I think the third point I'll put in is that I'm a longtime meditator. I've been doing transcendental meditation since I was 19. I do the advanced TM City program. I've been doing that since I was 20, twice a day. I go on retreats. I just got off a retreat with some guys who live in West Virginia who are part of this TM community, and they are like kind of like monks. So I spent a week with them just a couple weeks ago. So yeah,
oh,
I'm
cool.
really into meditation. I love meditation. I love transcendental meditation. It's a huge pillar of me, of my
Hmm.
journey in life.
What's a TM retreat like?
Okay, well, that makes let's think about transcendence and let's think about transcendental meditation in order to set that up. So, the idea of transcendence is really simple as it's used in this meditation. And I'll say right off, since we're jumping into meditation, that the word meditation is kind of like the word sport. There's a big difference between ping pong and archery. This word meditation, there's so many things that get called meditation, and I haven't found one yet that I think is bad. I think they're all great, like prayer, sitting in a church where it's really quiet and just sitting there and looking at the art and noticing how high the ceiling is. That's meditation. And there's a lot of other types of practices we could go into the different categories. But this unique one, transcendental meditation, it operates from a fundamental view of life that our minds, our consciousness, we could say even deeper, is like an ocean, and that the surface of the ocean is like our thoughts. And they're always moving. They're chopping, chopping, chopping. They come, the storms come, the calm comes. Early in the morning, there's no wind and it's just naturally all calm. And then later in the day, you get storms coming in, and it's just that's the nature of the mind. But the ancient Vedic view that transcendental meditation comes out of Vedic India is that there's this vertical dimension to the mind, and that we all have within us the silent depths of the ocean, and that it's always there. No matter how choppy the surface is, that silent depth is always there. So a lot of meditations are more focused on the waves. How do you relate to the waves? How do you dispassionately watch the waves, for example? Train yourself to not be attached to what the waves are doing. With transcendental meditation, there's none of that. There's no conscious control. There's no effort. It's very different that way. People often think, oh, is that where you try to repeat a mantra? And it's like, well, there's one word in there that's really wrong. It's try. There's no trying. And it's almost hard to imagine doing any mental activity that does not involve trying, but that's what transcendental meditation is. And the mind has this natural tendency to sink like a stone down to that quiet depth of the ocean.
Mm.
If you just allow it, if you give it room to do it, it just does it. And I always say, like, it's kind of like when you wake up in the morning by a lake in the country, and you walk out with your cup of coffee and you walk up to that lake, and the sunrise is just starting to come up and the lake is perfectly calm and clear. There's nobody, you can't hear anything. There's one fisherman like a couple miles away over there. You can just barely see. You don't have to tell your mind to settle down and be calm and expansive and peaceful. It just happens. The mind wants to go there.
Huh.
So that's what transcendental meditation does. It facilitates that process with eyes closed sitting. And it's the transcendent is defined as that which transcends thought.
Hmm.
So it's awake but silent. So somebody called it strength and stillness. There's a profound stillness, mental stillness. That's what transcendence is, profound mental stillness. And you don't try to get there with TM. You don't like try to stop thoughts. It just, you allow it. So transcendental meditation retreat is just a structured um, day or 2 days or week or month, depending on how far, you want to invest, that takes that same principle of the meditation and makes it a whole day. Not that you're
Hmm.
meditating all day. You're not. You're taking walks, you're having lunch, but it is a structured, deeper dive.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Kind of like getting out of the normal distraction so you can focus on that allowance, that allowing.
Yes. Yeah. One recommendation is to put the phones away.
Oh,
And in the meditation that happens on retreats, you're with a group and you're all sitting silently together
hmm.
for a good portion of the day, not all the day, but
I- is there a difference in, or have you found the difference in kind of doing it in a group setting versus on your own?
strikingly. And also, this is what the people who come to the retreats that we've been organizing repeatedly say this, that there is some kind of mysterious group effect.
Hmm.
And I mean, it's no shock, that our brains are wired together. They're in by invisible threads. They're wired together, and that's one of the great insights of Murray Bowen, the great family theorist, family psychology theorist, that we're wired together more profoundly than we realize. And so with the meditation, yeah, it seems that when one person in a group drops down to that lower depths of the ocean, other people more readily follow there as well.
That's so cool. It's
I
almost
know.
like you can sense it, see it, and it helps in some way.
It's very tangible. It's
Yeah.
I've repeatedly had this experience and almost strange to me because I'm a very regular meditator down in my meditation space downstairs at my house and do it every morning and every evening before dinner. But then I'll go to this group and whoo, all of a sudden it's different.
Huh.
Very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's old theory about this. There's knowledge in India about this.
How
So
about the group, like a group
the group effect.
practicing?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been written about for thousands of years, this group effect.
How
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah. Yeah. We're better together than separate, you know. It's-
Most of the time.
Most, most of the
Except when we
time.
aren't. Except when we aren't, because
I
we
hear
get under
that.
each other's skins, right? People
Yeah.
get under each other's skins. The sad truth that so much you go look for violence and you got to look inside people's houses. That's where it happens,
Yeah. What's
Almost
that?
all the I live in this little state of Vermont, almost all the murders that happen in Vermont, there's not a lot, are some domestic situation.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost like that wiring you're talking about has two sides to it. You know, it can be
Oh yeah.
profoundly revelatory or
Yes.
profoundly
Yeah.
violent in some ways.
That's such a good point. I mean, we can lift each other up or we can bring each other down. And then the question is, how sensitive am I as an individual to all that?
Hmm.
How sensitive am I to the choppy waves of other people's moods in my family or in my business?
Hmm.
And is my sensitivity to that completely out of control? so that I could actually have the thought that I'm in a really bad mood because of what you said, which is a very insane thing to be saying or thinking to anyone. It's just not true.
Yeah,
It's not true, but I could get there and think that
yeah. It definitely limits your options. But
massively. And yeah, Guillermo, you and I have studied this non-reactivity. What is that? What's the key to not reacting to the things we don't want to react to?
yeah,
It's a great thing to study
yeah, yeah. In practice.
and practice. Yeah, with a guide, it helps to have a coach who's an expert on it, who's spent years and years learning about it.
Mm.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
that's kind of just throw this in about meditation that a lot of people might wonder, well, is that just this thing you do? And then while you're meditating, you have this wonderful experience. But as soon as you walk back upstairs and your daughter's in a bad mood, well, what good is it? And that's one of the big questions that I've been really interested in is,
mm,
does meditation stimulate a stable non-reactive state or an increase in non-reactivity? Yeah.
mm.
You were going to say something. What were you thinking?
No, that now you got me thinking. Does meditation help increase my capacity to be non-reactive in
Yeah.
ordinary time, let's say.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I want to not try to overclaim things because I only know a little bit about this. I know my own experience as an advanced long-time meditator, and I now am getting information from other people who practice this meditation that I know, um, and ask them to think about it as well. So I guess we'll see. For
Yeah.
my project, we will see. But I can say I know that it has for me. I mean, I've done these other practices, kind of more um, tools that come out of family psychology to work on your own reactivity. And there's profound tools that you and I know about, Guillermo.
Mhm.
We have been lucky to run into incredible mentors who studied with Murray Bowen, who have these profound tools for working out that brain capacity, that psychosocial brain capacity. But I know meditation has had a significant impact on my progress.
Yeah. Yeah, I think on mine too. I mean, you know a little bit about my journey. It's been more of in terms of uh, encapsulated in a religious experience.
Yeah.
Uh, but my meditation has been more prayer. Martin Laird helped me a lot. That book that you recommended of
Yes. Into the
contemplative
Silent
practice.
Land by
Yes.
Father Martin Laird, the Jesuit who's at Villanova and is
Yeah.
a incredible writer and a beautiful Catholic priest who knows a lot about inner silence. And he wrote a book called Into the Silent Land.
It's so poetic. He's such a poetic writer. It's beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Uh, but yeah, I think meditation and prayer have been so useful to me. Uh,
Mm,
and you know, this distinction, you made a distinction that I wanted to just touch on. It was
mhm,
the difference between allowing uh, kind of a descent into the depths
mhm.
versus trying to just observe the chaotic mind, you know. Uh,
Yes.
somebody told me a great metaphor for she was a psychologist. She was talking about negative thoughts and
Mm,
how a lot of people think of it, they're trying to, it's like a inflatable ball in the water and they're trying to push it down,
mm.
you know? But what
Uh,
happens, it pops back up, you know?
yeah.
And she was
Negative
saying just throw
thoughts.
them out of the pool. But
Uh,
the metaphor I came up with was what if there are no balls to
yeah.
what if the negative thoughts
It-
aren't really there? It's just kind of an
yeah.
illusion, so to speak.
That's a very, we could talk a lot about that simple metaphor of push them down, or someone says throw them out of the pool. And I would submit that I'm not very good at that. If the
Me neither.
negative thought's already running, throwing it out of the pool, somebody could tell me, hey, why don't you just throw that out of the pool, man? Let it go. And I just have found over many years of observing, I'm just not that good at that. I could
Mhm.
let it settle down, like go to sleep and wake up in the morning and maybe don't act on it, because in the morning it's very likely to have settled down. Moods
Mhm.
don't last that long. If we make too much of them, we can make them last longer. But the insight of the transcendental meditation tradition is that if you're using anything like trying to throw it out of the pool or trying to push it down, either one of them are still utilizing the thought level of the mind. You're sort of using waves to stop waves,
Mhm.
but that this transcendental dimension is is it's a very different approach than
Mm.
using waves to stop waves or manage waves or surf waves.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the plumbing the depths or allowing one's mind to go to the depths.
And many people say, well, what is this depth? This is mumbo jumbo. What are you talking about? And I have this idea that I've been sharing around, and you were interested in it of a universal self. Well, it's not my idea,
Yeah.
but I'm interested in this idea because self is such a big thing in psychology. And we are all pretty interested in we psychological types and seekers is what are the characteristics of this thing that I call myself,
Mm.
and what do I do about this thing that I call myself? And that's a sacred approach to life to be introspective and exploring the self. So
Yeah.
is there in it? So what this is something I've been talking about. Is there a universal self? Is there something like a universal self that we could access,
Mm.
that we could experience directly? And what
Mm.
does it do to us when we do that?
Yeah. So it'd be like aspects this what do you think in aspects of the self that kind of everybody has it's connected in some way?
Let me take a swing at trying to say what do I mean when I say universal self? So I'm going to start. I'll give you a little quote here. So the Wall Street Journal on March 26th of this year had an article on is AI conscious?
Mm.
You can Google it, look it up. And in that article, the journalist at the end says, he starts, he says, well, if we're going to talk about whether AI is conscious, maybe we need to define what consciousness is. And he goes through a nice, brief newspaper summary of the science on this topic. And one of the truths about it is that lots of really smart experts in this say, we don't know. Amazingly, we can tell you a whole lot about an atom. So much has been discovered in the last 100 years, the last 20 years about atoms, about light, about other galaxies. But consciousness is a bigger mystery. In some ways, it's an unexplored territory. So the journalist says it's worth noting that growing numbers of philosophers and scientists are exploring alternative models. And he's referring to the most common model is look for the answer in the physical brain. So plumb the depths of the physical brain and see if you can tease out consciousness. Squirrels appear to have it, sunflowers even. They
Mhm.
turn towards the sun, but the physical brain is where a lot of people are looking. So this says but alternative models, exploring alternative models. Some suggest that consciousness may be a fundamental aspect of reality, somewhat analogous to space, time, or energy, and that the brain may function less as a generator of consciousness than an interface or receiver that organizes it. And I thought that was very exciting that made it into the Wall Street Journal because I've been listening to podcasts about this angle for years now. And hey, it's getting close to mainstream when it's in the Wall Street Journal. And, like I think about gravity. We know that gravity is impacting other galaxies. We have hard evidence that this thing, gravity, I don't know if Newton was the first one to use this term, but Isaac Newton was a big figure in physics and gravity, and the discovery that gravity is a fundamental organizing principle, not just of the stone that just slipped out of your hand, but also of the planets, the movement of the planets. So it's this unifying force. And I was thinking, well, we can probably all easily imagine a vast, almost infinite expanding universe, a physical universe.
Yeah.
We've got hard science now, amazing stuff in the Hubble telescope, et cetera, that tells us new information. Oh my God, it's so big and it appears to be expanding. The theories that say it's expanding fit the data. Well, can we also imagine a consciousness that has those same properties?
Mm.
Vast, infinite, part of everything, infusing like gravity,
Yeah.
these other galaxies,
Mm. Like a
infinite,
property
like
of
a
what.
property of nature,
Mm.
of the universe, of the earth, of everyone on it, of every plant and tree. And that is starting to head in the direction of what I mean when I say universal self, because making a leap now, I was talking about consciousness. But how about self? Self seems to imply like a knower, maybe a person somewhere in there. But I'm kind of like, let's slow. I don't need to go there yet. Let's slow down. I'm not necessarily talking about a person or a knower or some giant man sitting on a throne somewhere. I'm talking about self as more like gravity, as
Mm.
this more abstract, fundamental dimension of nature.
Yeah.
Maybe the universe is a self.
Hmm. It's like not something we have, but something uh, that we are. It's a part of us that's connected to everything else.
That would be, consistent with what I was trying to say, like this Erik Thompson self, which seems like such a big deal sometimes. Maybe that Erik Thompson self is a little bit like a little flick or a glimmer of sunlight on the water.
Mm.
It's part of the sun of the universal self, but in a certain state of awareness, inside that little glimmer, you could think it's all there is, or you could think you could not realize, you could not be aware that it's actually just a flicker on the lake and that its fundamental nature is something completely different and much bigger, the sun.
Mm. Ah, you're blowing my mind, Erik. Love it. I'm reaching.
Oh, you're very blowable.
You
I
know, you
love
know
a man
what?
who can have his mind blown, Guillermo.
Huh?
I love a man who can have his mind blown. Some of us are very susceptible to this.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll allow it. I'll allow it.
Well, it takes a flexible mind to be blown.
Yeah.
If your mind is like a rock, you know,
Hmm.
you could throw it down as far as you can chuck a baseball. It's not going to change at all.
Yeah. You know, you're making me think of I've been thinking a lot about, well, in Bowen theory, there's that idea of differentiation is kind of
Yes.
a process that we're all involved in. The goal is to
Hmm.
uh, kind of grow in differentiation, that ability to be connected and separate simultaneously and to navigate that. I've been thinking
Connected
about
and
it.
separate.
Yeah,
Connected and separate. Okay, go ahead.
yeah. I've been
Yeah.
thinking about it as the idea of participation. How
Okay.
do I want to how does somebody participate in the processes of life? Um, and as you're talking about this idea of universal self, it's
Hmm.
making me think of if that's true, then what's life about? I think it's about something like participating in that larger scheme of things and
Mm,
how it unfolds, how it's shaped, the
mm,
the beauty of it. Um,
mm.
I don't know.
Okay.
That's what you made me
Yeah.
think of.
Yeah. Um, in this ancient Vedic tradition, there's a one take on the purpose of life that you just called up, is it is to unify alpha and omega. So unify the point value of the self, the tiny little flicker, and the unbounded aspect of self, which I'm referring to as omega, alpha and
Mm,
omega. So that these two, the point and the universal value, the point and the unbounded value, are in perpetual relationship, but humans have the capacity to know themselves to be both.
that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Mm. And you can go on a journey about that,
Yeah.
And what's its relationship to um this goal to be connected and separate that Murray Bowen was so articulate about? Is
Mm,
there a relationship between those two visions of life?
yeah.
Or are they just really like two beautiful train tracks that never meet? They're just both great, but there's no relationship between them,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. I love that image of the unboundedness and then the flicker, the flash
Hmm.
that we can have that we're both simultaneously.
Yeah. I have to
And
give credit to my close colleague, Fred Travis, the neuroscientist of higher stages of human development. When I asked him at a conference we organized, uh, I said, what is the individual self? And he said, it's a reflection of the universal self. It's the way the universal self is experienced by the individual.
mm,
That's what he defined as like what I am.
mm,
But there is this funny thing, Guillermo, about why is it that I have some inkling of what it's like to be inside Guillermo's self, but I feel so much less clear about that than what it's like to be in the Erik Thompson self. Like there's this kind of barrier there, this profound natural barrier that we all experience life through our individual viewpoint, and we know other people. We're very close to other people. Other people mean so much to us more than anything. But there's this kind of membrane there, like a separateness that's built into nature,
mm.
like a profound differentiation that's just built into nature.
Yeah. Yeah, like there's a very deep connectedness, like you're saying. We can see somebody's emotion, feel it
Yeah,
even, but we
yeah,
can't experience what they're experiencing. There's that natural uh separation as differentiation, as you're calling it.
yeah.
Uh, uh,
Mhm.
and then how do you in your thinking combine the two? This
Mhm.
idea that we're in the transcendental sense, we have this unboundedness in the flash, and we're kind of uniting them in some way. I don't know if I'm summarizing that correctly.
Yes, that the 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 speck of light on the lake, which I'm using as a metaphor for the individual consciousness,
Hmm.
the Erik Thompson viewpoint on life. When that transcendence happens, when that settling of the mind to the depths of the ocean that we all have happens, the the predictable experience is that flicker comes to understand that it is the sun.
Got you.
Yes, it is the sun.
Mm.
So that's a very predictable piece of that process.
Yeah. How do you kind of, or do you, and how do you think about those two train tracks are that you were talking about,
Yeah.
the kind of transcendental part and then this idea of differentiation? Is there a bridge there for you, or are they just
Yeah. I
running
mean,
alongside each other?
that's kind of the thing that's been so exciting to me, as a family psychologist and a person who's written and published on family psychology. Uh, I was doing this practice since I was 19. I discovered Bowen theory, thank God, when I was 30. Really into both of them. Never even really thought much about them linking together. It was such a workout to get to know this family systems model and to study differentiation and non-reactivity and help other people do the same. So I'm kind of just keep on meditating, but I'm doing this thing. And then about a decade ago, I had some experiences that made me go, whoa, 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 wow, whoa, there's a profound link between these things. And that has been carrying me for a decade now,
Hmm.
exploring that. And I've become more and more confident that there's a mysterious fostering of differentiation that occurs when we transcend. It actually, it actually like grows differentiation. It's like shining a light on a seedling, a sunlight on a seedling. It just makes it grow.
Hmm.
And I can't say that this is true for everybody, but I think it might be. That's my
Yeah.
guess. And
Yeah.
it's amazing. I'll give you one little story just to illustrate it, get out of the abstract.
Please.
So
Yeah.
I'm sitting downstairs. My one of my beautiful daughters, of four beautiful daughters, brilliant. And kids have emotions. So my wife and one of my daughters were interacting in the morning before school, high school,
Hmm.
and I'm downstairs meditating in the house. And there's loud sounds coming through the walls. In fact, I even heard like a like I heard a something. I don't know if it was an object or a foot or something going through sheetrock. Very loud sound, and my wife's voice is elevating. My beautiful wife's voice, she's hers elevating, and the other ones, and there's a fight happening, and I have a thing. I just complete my meditation, so I keep on meditating and I was happening to on that particular occasion without trying, I was having a lot of that experience of inner silence, just a rich silence, like periods of time without thought, just in that sense of predictable expansion that occurs when that happens. So I think my wife had to go to work and I was resting after meditation for a couple of minutes, like I've been instructed to do. And then I walk out of my room and go upstairs. My wife's already gone. Coming down the stairs at me at a furious pace is my daughter, looking like an NFL lineman who wants to take me out. Now, she wasn't going after me. She was rushing to get out the door to make the bus. I think the fight had to do with getting to school on time. Has this ever happened before down in Florida? The fight about getting, it's a thing that happens in Vermont.
Oh, it happens here
Yeah.
too.
Oh, does it
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. See, I thought maybe just a Vermont thing, but so, anyways, what happened for me was a very striking feeling of completely not threatened. And it was sort of very striking because I'm very engaged with my daughter during this time, during these months. And I know how I typically would react to those sounds, to the look on her face, the facial muscles, the sound of her voice. So she's barreling down the stairs, and I can see all that alarm and upsetness on her face. And I felt strikingly differentiated from it, not in a state of disassociated disconnection. In fact, I was kind of like more able to just look right at her face,
Mm.
without losing a half smile on my face. And so she's coming down the stairs and she kind of hits the brakes because she realizes there's an object in front of her, me, and she stops and she looks at my face and she goes, shoulders down. She puts her arms out and gives me a hug. And it's hard to understand unless you have the context. That was not happening in the months previous. That interaction was very, very different than the predicted
Mhm.
pattern. Uh, what would have been happening is a much less differentiated response by the father. Uh, Tone of voice gets caught up in the escalation,
Mhm.
and my voice starts to get intense, and I start to want to control somebody, and I look afraid. My facial muscles beyond my control flash. I'm afraid. I'm upset. I'm angry. Is somebody going to break something? All that stuff, which is so common for me with her in this particularly challenging junction of the parenting journey with that one, just so different.
Mm.
So I was just after she blows out the door and makes it to school on time. And it's one of those moments like, okay, that was differentiation. I know that was differentiation. And I did not plan this moment. I didn't sit down there planning using the discriminative intellect to plan a differentiated action or even think about non-reactivity as something that I should be thinking about when she was escalating the sounds above me. I didn't think anything because I was meditating. I wasn't trying to allow my mind over there or stop and think. And so, I mean, I've just those experiences now. And it's not always right after meditation. It's could be just, in the middle of the day. But when they happen, I could tell you other stories. I had the very distinct sense that this differentiation of experience right now is coming right straight out of the meditation. It's
Mm.
coming out of the meditation, not coming out of the other tools I learned.
Good. Not coming out of
So
your,
I that's
yeah, not coming out of the
go
analytical
ahead.
brain. It's coming out of the experiential.
Not coming, yeah. Yeah, not
Yeah.
coming out of the discriminative intellect uh and the tools of using the intellect to manage oneself and to plan differentiation and execute on it. Yeah, so which I love those practices and I've done them, and I still use them, but this was just different. So, and I felt a little bit, got to be honest with you, I was like, Eureka! What the heck just happened? This was a discovery for me about differentiation.
Mm.
Whoa, there's another path here. And I
Mm.
I just value this so much because I care so much about families like you do, dedicating your life to helping families and
Yeah.
having this profound insight that it's how they react to each other that's the place to put your attention. That a family leader is a person who's a little bit better at that than they were yesterday.
Mm.
It's brilliant. It's a brilliant cutting right through all the distractions to the core of it. So since I care so much about that, pretty excited.
That's that's really exciting.
Yeah.
It's like you weren't necessarily trying to act different. You were just different. You were being different.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I was being different.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that, it's that's such, I think a tendency is for people maybe when they're thinking about being less reactive, it's like,
Mm.
you know, um, it can be confused with not caring in some way, or
Hmm.
people are going to think I don't care, or they'll say, but if I don't do anything, it means I
Yes.
don't
Yep.
care.
Yes. Yes.
But just
Yes.
I love that example because it was just you even said it previously, the muscles on your face would have
Mm.
communicated something.
Yeah.
But there was something about your experience that calmed you physiologically even.
Yeah.
And you were communicating that calm just by your presence.
Right.
Ah, it's so cool.
Yeah, it's like that my presence, my state of being was there was a thicker buffer or a more effective filter between my state and her state, so
Hmm.
that her state didn't pull mine into her state, and mine could stay where it was, which was pretty friendly. I was
Yeah.
I wasn't I wrote about this afterwards. I remember one of the things I wrote was there was no part of my conscious mind that was thinking there was anything wrong.
Hmm.
I wasn't in a state where I thought this shouldn't be happening. None of that. It's just this is happening. And I think that she could read that. People, if you're looking at him with a face that says, "What's wrong with you?"
Yeah.
It's pretty
People.
predictable what they're going to do in response to that, especially if they're upset.
Yeah. And speaking to the analytical part that you were talking about, you can only hide it so well,
Oh my God.
you
Can you
know.
even?
Yeah, you
I
can
mean,
try.
from the people who know you, from your family, oh, good luck.
So it's maybe I think you're helping me get this connection. It's no matter how much you try to be unreactive or less reactive, you can get a little, maybe you can get a little bit better at it, but I think you only make that step forward when you can be different. And that's the being is what gets communicated in that moment. That's
Yeah.
I never
Yeah.
put that in
One
that
thing
way.
interesting about it, Guillermo, is, and everybody who works on psychological development knows this, no matter what your path is, that when you experience a state of higher level development, that's when you really know what it's about. The words that you read about it are nothing compared to, it's
Yeah,
like the difference between reading about Zion National Park and being in Zion National Park. It's so different. And
yeah.
what you just said about the that being, that state of being in that moment with her, educated me about what differentiation is.
Mm, mm.
So yeah.
It's the book I was talking about earlier that by Vervaeke. He talks about propositional knowing versus participatory knowing.
Interesting. Yeah.
Propositional knowing is that book, the book tells you what it's like, and you have propositions.
Yeah.
Participatory knowing is, yeah, I think you described it. I think that's what it is. You know,
Mm.
you're like, oh, that's what that's like. I learned something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Through the direct experience. There's lots of kinds of knowing, and we who want knowledge tend to think about this. What are the different kinds of knowing, and what's the difference between real knowledge or, wisdom and a cheaper version of knowing or a cheaper version of knowledge, book knowledge, some would call it.
mm, uh, I was just the thought that popped into my head uh, is is part of one of the things that life is for is just to give expression to that unboundedness, something like that. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, you're a poetic person, so you just said something uh, poetic in the sense that poets are trying to express profound truths about life. Is that what's going on here? Right now, I'm looking over. You caused me to gaze over at a tree. There's a larch here in the yard, and it's got a lot of little tiny needles on it. A lot of needles. I've never counted them, but it's a lot, and they come out every year. They drop off and come back. So there's something in that tree that speaks to what you said. The individual needle is part of some kind of much bigger, so much bigger vastness. And is that the nature of the needle to express the vastness of the tree? and to be a part of the vastness of the tree.
Mm.
And, I think that's very beautiful. If you pivot over family psychology for a second, we're all part of a vast multi-generational stream. We're all part of something even bigger than our family genetic line, the family of human beings. And whoa, let's go even farther, the family of all primates. Now we're starting to get into infinite galaxies here of numbers, and you can keep on going. And are we part of nature? So nature expresses itself through us. I am the expression of the vast infinite natural world. I don't
Mm.
think that's a flaky, highfalutin thing to say. I am the expression of the vast infinite natural world. It does seem to be. Now, am I just kind of a material bit of this vastness? And is this vastness fundamentally material? Or is there something more going on here,
Mm.
that I'm actually a part of a vast consciousness, a vast awareness, a vast awakeness of some mysterious type, which I can't tell you that much about right now because it would just be coming from a book. But
Yeah,
maybe we are. And
yeah,
maybe people like Whitman were documenting it, Walt Whitman. And your friend
absolutely.
there who wrote the book. What's the book again? What's the name of the book?
That book, Awakening from the Meaning Crisis.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
But yeah, in our do humans have I don't know, are we more awake than the pine needle? You know, is a question I have. And what does
yeah,
that
and
mean
that's
for how we should conduct life?
the viewpoint coming out of the ancient Vedic tradition of India. And I got a bachelor's in Indian philosophy and English literature. So I've been studying this for a long time. And that viewpoint is that that in the final analysis, we're more similar to that pine needle than we are different,
Mm,
because this vastness is expressing itself in our little flicker of light. But however, one of the unique properties of human beings is that we have a range. We can know ourselves to be that infinite. Maybe the pine needle can't, I don't know. But that's the proposition, that even, like animals, like a chipmunk or something, their awareness has a smaller range, and
mm.
our range is very unique, and that it can go all the way.
Does the big goes on. I love it. I was listening to, I forgot what it was. Somebody was talking about entanglement the other day, quantum entanglement, and that
Hmm. Yeah.
chances are everything's entangled a lot more than we think, even back in time. You know, you think about the Big
Interesting.
Bang or something.
Interesting. Even back in time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, oh, no, I lost my thought. But you were talking about Whitman,
Yes.
and I know you love poetry.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, how
You want
does
to hear
it help?
you
How
want to
does
hear
it
some
help
Whitman?
you?
You
Huh?
want to hear some
I want
Whitman?
to hear it. Absolutely.
Well, uh, I have a long affection for great literature, and I love poetry. So one of the things I'm doing in my project, which I call the differentiated universal self, which is a way to try to make it a concept, that the things I've been sharing, that I think there's this profound link, try to define a concept. And then how do you explore it? Well, you can meditate, you go on retreats, test the hypothesis, do it with other people, read things like the incredible theorist Donald Hoffman, who has a very mathematical, a very grounded scientific theory of the universal self. But you could also look and read in literature, scripture, poetry. Does anybody describe this connection? And I've been doing that. So I've been looking and I found a lot of connection. A lot of people who describe this link, the the
Mm,
the experience of unboundedness, the experience of universality, and how it has a differentiating effect on the individual.
mm,
And right now, the top two contenders for the number one most clear about this are the Bhagavad Gita, the Indian scripture, the Bhagavad Gita, which has the word separateness is all through that short book. It's called the Song of the Self, the Gita.
uh,
The song, Gita means song, Song of the
okay.
Self. So that word is all through it. I've pulled out quotes in my teaching. I share the quotes. And then there's Walt Whitman, our great American Walt Whitman, celebrated as the great poet of democracy, was a nurse in the Civil War, lived in the late 1800s, wrote this book called Leaves of Grass. Many people have described him as a candidate for someone who lived Maslow's hierarchy. The Maslow created a model of higher stages of human development. He wasn't just interested in peak experiences, but he was interested in peak stages, stable states of human experience. And
Mm,
many scholars kind of make the link between Whitman and these higher stages.
mm.
And his most famous poem is called Song of Myself. And I got to tell you, right now, just sitting here, I realized that the Gita and this poem have
I
a
was-
very similar name. I never thought of that before. Okay, so kudos to you and your podcast for bringing out connections. But he calls it Song of Myself,
Mm,
which is, I think he's a brother. He's like you and me. He's thinking about self in a profound way, and he wants to tell us something about it. And the thing that he's decided to do is write a song. He calls it a song. Poetry has a musical quality. There's no
mhm.
musical notes that he gave us, but he gave us words, beautiful words. Um, his book is called Leaves of Grass. And what he does with that title is he tells us that the leaves of this book are part of nature,
Mm,
leaves of grass. You're holding leaves of grass in your hand.
that's beautiful.
And then he says, inside that book is this thing, Song of Myself.
Mm,
Um, Frontispiece of the book, the version of it that my grandmother had, with an illustration of Walt. There's Walt, and when he lived, famous picture of him. If you're not into poetry and you don't know about Walt Whitman, he is one of the most famous American poets, and he's still read in translation all over the world.
they call him the father of American poetry,
Hmm.
and Emily Dickinson's the mother.
She's great. And forgive me for skipping through here, but here's another picture of the book, the old book. Let's check out this one, The Origin of All Poems. This is from the first stanza of the 52 stanzas of Leaves of Grass. Stop this day and night with me, and you shall possess the origin of all poems. You shall possess the good of the earth and the sun. There are millions of suns left. You shall no longer take things at second or third hand, nor look through the eyes of the dead, nor feed on the specters in books. You shall not look through my eyes either, nor take things from me. You shall listen to all sides and filter them from yourself.
Mm.
Now, that sounds like a good Bowen coach,
That-
a Bowen Family Systems coach.
Yep.
He's presenting some ideas. He's expanding the lens. He's mentioning that there are millions of suns.
Uh,
And he is making it super clear that he's not that interested in you buying everything he has to say. He knows how important it is for you to discover for yourself. So in stanza 26, he refers to this poem. It says, "At length, let up again to feel the puzzle of puzzles, and that we call being." He puts that in a capital, being.
Oof.
So here's a picture of a book that's connected to something vast
Yeah.
that he seems to be telling us his book is connected to.
Mm. I never paid attention to that before, Eric, that he capitalized being too. It's not just your being, it's being itself.
Yes. Puzzle of puzzles. And this is I'm going to share now these two pages here that I think if people have been coming to my public presentations and the classes we do online, they may have already heard these, but uh, you could savor these words forever. So this comes again in this Song of Myself. And this is the section of the poem that I think most fully provides evidence that this vast universality, which he's already referred to in the quotes I just shared, has a differentiating impact on the person. So what I think is Whitman's Song of Myself is a song of differentiated self. And
Mm.
here's the stanza, I'll read it to you, that tells me this. He says, "Trippers and askers surround me." I just pause on that for a sec. So remember the story of my daughter. Trippers and askers surround me. What's a tripper? Something trying
Mm.
to trip you up. Life is
Get you
full
out
of
of
things
yourself.
that are trying to trip you up. What did you say?
Oh, I said something trying to get you out of yourself in some way.
Could be. Yeah. Trippers and askers. And then he lists the trippers and askers. Now check this list out. This is quite a list. All the next sentences I will read, I'll go through them, are what he's calling trippers and askers. People I meet. First category, other people. People I meet. The effect upon me of my early life. Or the ward and city I live in. Or the nation. Anybody getting tripped by the nation lately? He says, other trippers and askers, the latest dates, the discoveries, inventions, societies, authors old and new. My dinner, dress, associates, looks, compliments, dues. Interestingly, he mentions that both compliments and dues can trip.
Hmm.
And then he comes in real strong. The real or fancied indifference of some man or woman I love.
Mm.
And note, Whitman students, how he's talking about the real problem. This indifference could be the fancied indifference. Got me thinking that maybe my wife doesn't love me enough today. I fancy that she's indifferent to me. And he notes that it could be real indifference. I mean, some people don't like me. They just don't. How much of my life energy do I want to spend chasing them around and seeing if I can get them to like me? Well, if you're a high school teacher, you're sunk if that's what you're up to. And you're not going to do so well if you're the coach of the Miami Heat either.
Uh,
So, but he says the real or fancied indifference of some man or woman I love is another tripper and asker. On he goes. The sickness of one of my folks or myself or ill doing or loss or lack of money or depressions or exaltations. Battles, the horrors of fratricidal war, the fever of doubtful news, the fitful events. These
mm.
come to me days and nights and go from me again. I'll pause here. So now he's gone through this list of the trippers and askers that surround him. And he's a profound psychologist, and he's also talking about things that are very relevant. We're living in a time of fratricidal war. He lived through the Civil War. He lived through it. He
Mhm.
looked at it with his own eyeballs. He was in the hospitals. where people were had their limbs sawed off without anesthesia because it hadn't been developed yet. But he says, now, here comes the differentiation. These come from me days and nights and go from me again. But they are not the me, myself. Capital M. These strippers and askers, they are not the me, myself. No. Apart from the pulling and hauling stands what I am. And now he's talking about differentiation from all that. Apart, differentiation, separateness, apart from the pulling and hauling, pulled around, hauled around by the trippers and askers. Apart from that stands what I am. So the word stands what I am is strong. I'm standing in what I am, not falling over. I'm not being tripped. I'm standing. And apart from all of that stands what I am. And then he describes this other thing, this what I am. He says it stands amused. Amused. To be amused at all of that? He says that he stands amused and complacent. Complacent. It's a funny word. I don't know what its context was back in the 1800s when he wrote that, but to me it makes me laugh at the holy fool who is complacent. And he says compassionating. So he's not disconnected. He's not a cold, isolated, separate guy. He's compassionating and he's idle. Idle is very similar to neutrality. And then he says unitary. Unitary. What does that mean to be unitary? He says, I'm unitary. I think it means something like we were talking about. I'm something very big. I'm united with everything. I'm unitary. Or it could mean that I in myself, I am composed. I am a wholeness. I am a differentiated wholeness. I'm connected to all this. I'm compassionating, but I'm also a wholeness. I'm solid.
Yeah.
And then he says, this what I am looks down. Looks down. So looks down means, he's up above it. He's above it. He's separate from it, but in a way of above it. He's leading. Is erect or bends an arm on an impalpable, certain rest. We could probably speak for half an hour on those three words, but I'll keep moving. Looking with side curved head, curious. What will come next? And there's that amused quality. I wonder if my daughter is going to deck me right now. Is she going to flatten me? Well, that'd be interesting. But then here he goes now, both in and out of the game and watching and wondering at it. Now that happens to be the exact same metaphor that Dr. Murray Bowen used for differentiation of self. In and out of the game. Both in and out of the game. On the field, you're on the field of the family. You're also in the balcony at the same time. Exact same metaphor written before Bowen was born. And I love the little detail he throws in there, the jazz nuance, watching and wondering. So there's a sense of wonder in this self that stands apart that he's telling us about. And so what I think he's done here, I'll just finish off the quote here and then I'll stop sharing. He says, backwards I see in my own days where I sweated through fog with linguists and contenders. He looks back and he can see a different state of awareness that he was in. But now I have no mockings or arguments. I witness and wait. I witness and wait. I witness and wait. So, I think he's telling us very directly in this stanza that I'm both these things.
Yeah.
I'm the all in it. I'm the trippers and askers surround me. I'm mixed in all that. I'm extremely human, but I'm also not that. I'm differentiated from that. And if you read other parts of the poem, he's very explicit that this other part is the universal self.
Mm. I love it, Eric.
Whitman,
I
thank
love,
you, Uncle
ah,
Walt.
thank you, Uncle Walt. You know what? It just struck me about Whitman and about this idea of the universal self and even
Hmm.
differentiation. A thread that I'm finding is
Mhm.
that when you can realize the separateness,
Hmm.
uh, and a, and kind of be in that place, you also see the unity.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. That's a very interesting point. When I am in the separateness, then I can see the unity. So you might be suggesting that when I'm stuck together with the object of attention, I fail to see the unity.
you just,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's really beautiful, Eric. Huh.
I mean, Guillermo, as a student of differentiation, to find this in this poem a few years ago was another eureka, right? Can you
Absolutely.
can you feel it?
I can feel you looking, going, oh, there it
What?
is.
I read this poem when I was 20.
Oh
I
my
studied
God.
this poem in college, but look what's in there, hidden in there.
Eric, did you have, what was the impulse to go kind of searching into poetry? Just an intuition that's always been there for you?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm a habitual reader of the wisdom tradition.
Yeah.
That's just part of my pleasure in life. It's like playing a guitar for me. I go to it for pleasure. And so I'm always doing that anyways. But this was preparation for a course I was teaching on the Transcendentalists and Bowen theory. So in this course, we went to the Transcendentalist authors. You mentioned the great Emily Dickinson, who
Hmm.
who told us that the brain is wider than the sky. Uh, and Emerson and Thoreau to see if we could find differentiation there. Because we knew they sang of the universal self. We knew they wrote about the transcendental self,
Mm.
but could we find differentiation there? So that's what brought me back to Whitman.
Yeah. I love that. And I know you threw Blake out there too.
In a recent uh what is that called we're on, like a Substack?
Yeah, it was, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. But I was just thinking of this idea of separateness and unity to that Blake thing, to see the world in a grain of sand and heaven in a
Yes.
wildflower, to hold
Yes.
infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity in an hour.
There's that alpha and omega. He's
Exactly.
literally telling us that this quest to see the world in a grain of sand. It's very resonant with the Vedic tradition. And the quote I shared in that thing was, he who binds to himself a joy does the winged life destroy. But he who kisses the joy as it flies lives in eternity's sunrise. So Blake too was exploring these. The great William Blake, English romantic poet from around the time of the Revolutionary War, was exploring these links between the binding of ourselves to something else. That's what killed me when I caught that shared. That was shared by Bob Roth, who's a figure in the transcendental meditation world. And I heard him say it, and I was like, wait a minute. He who binds to himself a joy? That's Murray Bowen right there. Does the winged life destroy? It's,
Mm.
I don't know if there's a better summation of Bowen in 8 words than what William Blake threw out there.
That I don't think so.
That's it.
That's
That's the
it.
whole Bowen theory in one line.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really
Uh,
fun, to discover these connections. It's
it's
amazing to me.
so much fun.
Yeah. I think these guys knew about differentiation. Differentiation's part of human experience, and other people have known about it, pre-scientific people.
Yeah. Uh, and then it got kind of muted somewhere by the way we were talking about the world.
Well, you could say illuminated also by
Ah,
by the scientific adventure that humanity has been on. But maybe there is the potential for it to also we could get lost in the science,
yeah. That's what I was thinking. That's
lost in the book,
yeah.
and start to reduce differentiation down to merely something in a book.
Yeah. I think that's what I love about poetry. It can revivify that understanding,
Yes.
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you, Eric, so much for chatting.
Thank you. Thanks
It's
for
been a
what you do.
pleasure.
It's been fun.